So we're in the cutting room, cutting furiously, 30 weeks to go. And while we're in here editing, we have a team of sound recordists who are basically compiling the type of sound effects that we're going to need for the movie. They don't really have the final cut pictures to work to yet, but they certainly know the type of noises and effects that they're going to need for the finished film.
Well, right now the sound department is very active recording sound effects.
This recording stage that we're in now, this sort of gathering stage, is really fun because there's like this aspect of adventure to it where we're able to get out of the studio into the field.
We have got the right building, eh?
Wellington!
The steamship recording was really fun. It's crewed by these guys who are all steam enthusiasts, and they were just great.
We're going after all the mechanical engine sounds for the Venture, and a lot of the Venture actual footage has been done with miniatures, so bringing the realistic sound to life is crucial to making it feel real and believable.
We over-recorded this boat. Better to over-record than under-record, we say.
We've had longboat recordings for the Venture crew with everyone rowing.
So we're out in the bay and we're just sort of rowing away, and then we're sort of rocking it, and then we're getting it buffeting against the rocks. And then, meanwhile, the art department guys in the bank are looking at this because we're like scraping up all the hull of this thing, and we're taking out chunks from the front of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't include any of that bashing of boat stuff.
The system will bash us. They're a really good art department. They can fix anything.
You got to suffer for your art, you know.
We're in Wainuiomata. The sound team is here trying to capture the log falls for some of the Kong action through the forest, and we've been dropping these big logs back here. So we're about to drop it in the mud to try and get some big ape or dinosaur body falls in mud.
So often when we go out and record, we don't always know exactly how things are going to turn out.
That's definitely going onto the internet.
Off again today, another big trip.
We recorded planes over in the Wairarapa, and that was with a 1939 Harvard.
The right sounding plane, but not necessarily the right looking plane.
The sound is very important in terms of really bringing the images to life. And another thing that sound does is it's working in 3 dimensions. And so when we're doing something like the plane recordings, we're very aware of how the sound is traveling through space.
Creating a 3-dimensional space actually gave us also an opportunity with the guns to record the guns slapping off the various hills.
Primary gun used by the Venture crew.
We can actually feed that into processes which can then recreate how the sound was bouncing around the hills with the sounds kind of flying around you, kind of in a theatre.
Those are sounds which don't necessarily exist in libraries, and even if they did, we probably wouldn't want to use them straight out of libraries because
We would prefer we give the audience a whole brand new track wherever possible, and that's always better.
The sound effects library at the moment is about 0.5 terabyte. There's around 50,000 sound effects, so there's probably about 100,000 individual files.
And we've got hours and hours of recorded material that I still haven't had a chance to get into the library because we keep going out and recording more.
So it's been full on. It's been a very full on week with more to come.
Okay, welcome to this week's production diary. We've got now 23 weeks left to go. So now that you've seen the gathering process and you've seen us run around, record all the sounds we need, I would like to invite you inside to Park Road Post to see the next step, which is designing and editing the sounds. Okay, so just down there is the ADR recording stage.
We didn't get much of a crowd tonight, Annie.
And this is our main mixing theatre.
Come on, take me to dinner.
And this is our department.
the sound design is really made up of many layers of sounds, and we start with the smallest sounds.
Sound design is pulling sounds out of thin air. Building mass footwalla.
We'll start with a couple of simple elements for the hit of him throwing, And then a metal element will have a glass element. And then it's really a matter of adding other elements for the slide past. Once you kind of put it all together, it kind of sounds like this.
We have the ability to basically take each sound and move it around the room by putting it through this control system where we can tell it what speaker to go into. So this dot basically represents the sound. Right now, I've got it playing out the center speaker, but I can move it to the right surround, left surround, back to the front left.
We're putting that right around the room, so we've got pretty much a really good quad going of creaks and moans, and and when the tram gets bashed, the tram bell also dings every now and then, which is quite funny. I also use the boat and the car drops for the tram impacts onto the vehicles and stuff like that.
It's been a fantastic day, one of the best recording days yet.
And the tram is made of wood and steel, so it gives it a believability and that size of the impact. They're pretty tough people.
When you hear this in the film, there'll be Kong effects all over it, and the crowds probably won't be anywhere near as exhausting to listen to as they are at the moment when they're totally raw, because they sound like this. You get the idea. When I finally see the scene and I see all those bits of pre-res having swapped out with the real crowd, I'm familiar with it, and I can go, that shot, that sound, and just whack it in, and it's going to be a bit of a sausage factory because that's the way it's looking like it's going to turn out.
We've got a pretty monstrous amount of work to get through, which is kind of appropriate given there's lots of monsters in the film. The bulk of the recording has been done, but there's still lots of little bits and pieces, and you come up with an idea and you go, oh, I want to try that. So you just sort of run away and try a particular thing. As time goes on, there'll be obviously less of that, and everyone will just get sort of hairier and sort of smellier, and we'll just get really tired and grumpy. Apart from that, it'll be great fun.
Hello, KongIsKing.net. We are sitting here in the lovely Park Road Post doing ADR with 18 weeks left to go until the movie opens. And
can we get some breath in the voice?
Some breath?
Just to try and get some breath in the
We've got 18 weeks to go!
Don't say that, Colin! Nobody's panicking. It's all good.
No one's panicking. It's all good. We're here in the ADR room. Check it out.
Shut up and get to work.
ADR is either alternative dialogue recording or automatic dialogue replacement. What ADR actually ends up being, though, is the process of replacing all of the dialogue in the film, or breaths, or grunts, or screams, or kisses, or anything to do with the human mouth, any vocal quality.
You should, because there's no such thing as a slow death, see?
Look, ADR basically means you're going to be stuck in a dark room all day.
It can drive you insane.
On the set, they often have, wind machine noise, or they might have, in fact, planes, sort of, in fact, flying over. There's any number of things can actually destroy the actual sound, on the day. So once they've actually cut the scene, we have to get the actors, in fact, back in and record again their sort of lines in the scene. At the end of the day, we're probably going to be, in fact, recording about 90+% of the dialogue.
The challenge here is to make the ADR look really natural, look in sync with their mouths, so that people aren't questioning it and going, that doesn't quite look right, and making it sound natural as well.
In ADR, you get these scripts, but it's not only every line, it's every little thing that you do. So one cue will be breaths.
We spend a lot of time shaping breath so that they have a presence, so that it doesn't sound just like ADR.
Breaths arriving with camera.
Feverish nightmare breaths.
Breaths while lost in thought.
Concerned breaths.
Breaths looking around for source of gunfire.
Distracted breaths.
An inhale, which is nice, to balance it.
ADR, Acoustic Development Research. Mostly it's because it doesn't sound good, but sometimes it's because the acting was...
Peter and Fran have always, and this is what one of the things that they taught me, is that you get another shot at the story in post, And one of the places, it's not just in the edit, it's also in the ADR. Because voice is actually what carries performance.
Actually, it's kind of cool from an actor's perspective because it gives you a second chance to act, essentially.
In a lot of ways, it's harder than the original performance because you got to match the lips perfectly. You got to match the intensity.
You got to be really up when you see it. So up is good.
Anne, come on in. Let me introduce you to the crew. Don't erase that one.
Okay.
I think it might be a golden nugget on closer inspection.
Okay.
The actor has to come in here kind of cold.
Lost in what?
Watch himself act in the scene and actually get himself back into that mode so that he can both, in fact, give us the actual performance on the day or something better.
Lighten the ship! Anything that's not bolted down goes overboard!
I lost my breath.
Yeah, that's why we're going way. The other reason to do ADR is because you've reshaped the storytelling, so you're picking up lines that have never existed before.
You can totally write new dialogue and throw it into the scene.
For real.
Yes. 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 It'd be funny if we did a Peter. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do a little homage.
Yeah, a little homage. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Cool. That was funny. That's Pete. What's the hardest part about ADR? Getting Jack Black to keep his pants on. It's pretty hard.
I feel like I could hear my pants a little bit wrestling.
I can hear the...
Let me take care of that. Let's do it again.
Hello, 15 weeks to go. This week we've got something very interesting. It's another one of those behind-the-scenes areas that not a lot of people know about. I'm sure you'll appreciate that the big sound effects are obviously put in later, like Kong roaring and aeroplanes and that stuff, but what you may not be aware of is every tiny little subtle sound effect is also added in, and a lot of these are done by the Foley artists.
Foley is actually named after a fella by the name of Jack Foley, who started the whole process of putting sound effects in sync with pictures. Foley, yes, is basically replacing every human movement that happens in a film.
Actors do what's called ADR and they replace their dialogue, and then we go into a sound recording studio and recreate everything that you see.
So we've got our footsteps, we've got people drinking cups of tea, or
doors closing, people having meals, you know, knives and forks. And on Kong there's a big boat called the Venture, so everything that happens on the boat we recreate.
All of the stuff going thrown overboard, like every single crate landing in the ocean, they're all done individually.
Very nice, thank you.
We were lucky, we were able to get a lot of the original props. The big old baskets, the cages, old wooden crates. We've got things off of the Venture itself, because that's only just parked down at the wharf here. So we've got all the rigging, the pulleys and things, because that's swinging around in the storm and that'll be hitting the side of the boat. And we'll be doing all their coats separately, because they've got these big, heavy, weatherproof coats. Oh, you name it.
Yeah, got everything, including the kitchen sink, yeah.
So the process is that we work to the picture, we have our own screen in the room. You have to be in character pretty much, take on that character, especially when you're walking the feet through. So you really have to take on their mannerisms, weight changes. So it's sort of like a little dance, I suppose.
So what we're doing is we're doing all the hands on the guns, and then we'll do gun on wood, and then gun straps, and then gun rattles, and so you do layers and layers and layers of sounds just to make one element. Here we go. They've got to convince me. Cool, that's good.
For Skull Island, where there are the natives, we wanted to create a different atmosphere there, so we gave them a little signature sound, which is the skulls and beads they wear on their neck.
Is it me?
And then there's also the thousands of feet when they're all trying to sacrifice someone on the island.
All I can say is ouch.
We also wanted to make the island have an own atmosphere, so it sounds different than anywhere else. So we gave like creaking bamboo sticks and just, you know, certain things that would give it more of an atmosphere. And also take it from the dry, we've just arrived, oh, it's nice and sunny, wow, this is a deserted island, to the wet, more intimidating, more sort of violent element of the scene.
This is the remains of all the previous Foley artists that used to work in this room.
It's great fun, it's challenging, it's rewarding, it's hilarious.
You're just locked away in your own little thing and do what you want, and at the end of the day you come out with a really good sound. It's a good thing. That's what I like about it. When you play it all back and it works.
Welcome. Here we are on the dubbing stage for King Kong. It's 7 weeks to go before you're going to see this incredible movie. And this is the last step before it gets processed and then attached to the film and arrives at the movie theater for you to enjoy. We are, this week, laser focused on dinosaurs.
We've done a lot of Kong vocals, but this week we're spending time with the Brontosaurus, the Wetosaurs, and the T-Rex. Ultimately, we're building tracks that will carry forward to the final mix.
The final mix is where we take the music, the sound effects, and the dialogue, and we combine them all down to create the final soundtrack. So basically, the way we have it divided up on these mixes is we have one sort of mixer that handles each one of those three areas. The dialogue is handled by Mike Semanek.
Christ, bring them over here!
And the effects is handled by Chris Boyes. And for the music, we have Mike Hedges.
My responsibilities are taking the score and putting it to the picture. And King Kong, it's a love story. And in that, it's full of emotion. The music is going to play such a huge part in this film.
Been focusing on getting reels 1, 2, and 3 in shape for the final mix. I mixed the production sound, the dialogue that was recorded on the set, as well as the ADR, which is dialogue replacement, and make it sound natural.
My apologies for not being able to offer you a cabin. Have you found an enclosure to your taste?
Dialogue is really the driving force between a lot of the volumes in films, and one of the things I do hate is like trying to force the dialogue up over things unnaturally, and I have to know how loud the music's going to be against the sound effects, where to place the dialogue. I'm going to set the dialogue at a level that's comfortable for audience members to listen to, and they have to wrap around it. In scenes where there is no dialogue, they can take it away, you know?
And I'm next door over here cooking up a whole brew of sounds that's going to plow right over his dialogue. And on the day, I'll have to figure out how to get out of the way. Literally, I have hundreds of tracks going, and then there'll be the 6 tracks of music that I've got to figure out how to dodge and weave and kind of weave myself into it in such a way that I'm not stepping on the music, I'm not stepping on the dialogue. And then, of course, we'll have the times where Peter will say, you know what? We need the sound effects to drive this scene, and the music will have to completely get out of the way or just, sort of play a thread underneath. And so it's kind of a give and take all day long, frame by frame, scene by scene.
Gonna have the ship's engines all over the dialogue. Seagulls. Camera noise, wind. Christ knows what else.
I don't care, Mike. You're the sound recordist. Make it work.
We have to be very careful about picking our moments of rocking and picking our moments of subtlety.
That's always on the forefront of our agenda, is to make this exciting and compelling to the audience.
You don't want to walk out of King Kong and go, oh yeah, that was okay. You want to come out of King Kong and go, man, that was fantastic. That rocked my world. You're going to want to see it 3 or 4 times just because you miss bits and pieces, because you're probably hiding, as my wife will be. Welcome, everybody. 6 weeks to go. Pressure on. Great place to be. Last week, Michael, Chris, and I introduced you to the final mix process. Today we'd like to show you the mixing console and a few of the tricks of the trade that we do as mixers to produce the soundtrack that will be King Kong.
Today we're putting in the freshly scored music, putting just the finishing touches on reel 2.
What we have here is a film mixing console. Ethan Vanderon will build with his crew this wonderful palette of sounds. And then they'll bring all those sounds down here, and that's when I will sit at the console and I'll take all these tracks that they've edited and I will start playing with all the tools that I have.
She's standing at the railing. She doesn't know it yet, but they are sailing towards disaster.
People go, wow, look at all these knobs and buttons. Yeah, but you know what? It's only one strip here. They're all the same. It's just duplicated. So once you learn one, you know them all. Each voice of each actor or character comes in on these faders. Then you get to see, whoa, how loud you can actually make it, or how soft you can make something, or equalizing it, you know, how bright. Wow, it's too bright, or, you know, too low end. I can put a lot of bass in somebody's voice who doesn't really have bass in it.
It's not ethical. What are they going to do, sue me? Huh? You can get in line. I'm not going to let them kill my film.
Each fader has, in my case, a different part of the orchestra on. And in that, we will have the percussion split off. So if Peter wants to have a different feel for any given reason, we'll be able to pull the orchestra down, which is the strings and the cellos, and raise the percussion, the drums, the timps, all of the exciting elements.
On each channel, I have knobs that allow me to pan the sound around the room. I can pan it over here to the left. I can pan it to the right surround here and then over to the left surround. Conversely, we have aux sends. Aux sends allow me to take my sound and send it to an outboard device. An outboard device can be any number of things. Typically, they're reverb, echo.
A lot of times, if you look at a scene, it can go very deep, so we put some sounds farther back, sort of try and make sounds three-dimensional, and other ones up closer, and I often have to use reverb to do that, or echo. We also use a thing called a subharmonic generator, which will take the big events and add a low-frequency element to make it just seem more massive and bigger.
The visual effects department just added, which I think is really cool, a train that goes by in the window just on the right shoulder of Carl here. Well, in reality, that sound may be really loud if we were right there with Carl. In the emotional sense of the film, we're really dialed into his dialogue, so we just want to get a presence of that tram as it goes by. So I'm going to put it in.
We were shooting Singapore, right? That's what you told her. Yeah, but we're not shooting in Singapore. God damn it, President, all you had to do was look her in the eye and lie.
And that wasn't gently. So let's try that again, and we got to pan it right.
Yeah, but we're not shooting in Singapore. God damn it, President, all you had to do was look her in the eye and lie. I gotta get to a phone.
Anyway, so that's kind of a basic idea of what we do with our mixing console.
Moving forward, that's all we ever do.
Ultimately, all of those elements sit on the screen in a way that the audience says, yep, I'm here. I am in that jungle with this dinosaur, and thank God I get to be here, but I don't have to feel as if I'm gonna be in his mouth.